Hey guys, I wanted to make a real quick video talking about Dying Light 2 again because there were a lot of things that I said in my review of the game, as well as I made a video recommending you guys to just not buy the game at all due to the bugs. And things have changed. They just released a huge patch, 1.2, I believe it is. And I wanted to kind of go over some of the things that this patch is changing, mainly just to kind of give them credit, honestly, because if you look at a game like Cyberpunk, I mean, that game has literally been out. I mean, I don't remember exactly when it came out, but it's certainly been over a year that it's been out, and it's still getting patches and it's still getting fixed. And honestly, they were really slow on the draw for Cyberpunk. It took a really long time, and honestly, now the game is still not in a playable state, or at least the state that they had promised us. Whereas Dying Light 2, just a little bit over a month after launch, I think it's been around like 5 weeks since the launch of the game, has improved tremendously. And with this newest patch, they have not only fixed every single issue that I had with the game, other than one, but they have actually added so many quality of life and fantastic things to the game that people were asking for that I did not expect to get added until 4, 5, 6 months down the line. That it's actually incredibly impressive and it deserves our praise because we cannot just go ahead and, lambast all of these companies like Techland or like CD Projekt Red when they release a broken game and then not, also give them credit when they are fixing things. So I want to go ahead and give Techland credit because, especially with this newest patch of 1.2, I went ahead and I just played a couple hours of Dying Light 2 on the newest patch, and it is so much better, dude. And I already thought it was a really solid game. I just couldn't recommend it to people because of the bugs, which you'll know if you've seen my review. I really enjoyed the game itself. It's just it had a lot of bugs and stuff like that. And now they have they have fixed so much. So let's get into actually, these patch notes and talk about it a little bit. So if you look here, um as of now, all known cases with death loops have been eliminated. Now, this was the biggest issue with the game, which I talked about in my video, is that there were a lot of people who literally could not complete the game. And yeah, we can spend all day, stating that, well, these types of problems should not have been in the game in the first place. We shouldn't go ahead and, be praising these developers when they should have just had all these issues fixed. Obviously, if they can fix them in 5 weeks, then they should have just delayed the game 5 weeks. But let's be honest with ourselves. At the end of the day, you can go ahead and be a glass half empty type of guy if you want. But the truth of the matter is this: no matter how high the budget is, you could be Activision or Microsoft or whoever, these billion-dollar companies. At the end of the day, you do not even have close to 5% of the playtesters versus how many people will be playing the game on launch, right? And this is something that's been corroborated by many game developers. Is that that's what they say? They say, listen, man, we have playtesters that test the game, but at the end of the day, it's just not feasible to hire, you know, 10,000, 100,000, like there's going to be millions of people playing the game, and that is the best way to play test a game is at launch where there's millions of people. So even if you have 1,000 people playtesting the game, there's still going to be a lot of stuff that slips through those cracks, and they're just not going to have the data. So I'm not going to go here and defend this multi-million dollar corporation with Techland or anything. I said in my review, and I said it before, I do believe the game should have been delayed longer, but it wasn't, and they've changed a lot of stuff. So as of right now, there's no death loops in the game, and we're not talking about the arcane title. with death loops, in case you don't know, there used to be issues where, say you'd go out of bounds on a mission area, it would kill you because you're out of bounds. It'd be like, you need to return to, the mission area. It would kill you. And then when you respawned, sometimes it would spawn you back outside of the mission area, and you would just be caught in this death loop and unable to play the game. Now, within a few days, they had put out a patch that added multiple different respawn options, which fixed it for basically everybody, to be fair. And that was, like I said, within the first couple days, they made it so you could restart the entire mission, which would fix it. They made it so you had several checkpoints, and then they eventually made it so you have multiple saves. Thank God. And that was within a couple days of launch. Now, actually, they have just removed every single situation of a death loop occurring, which is fantastic. This was the number one issue that the game had. They fixed a bunch of the blocks and quests, and I tested this with a couple of the quests that I have issues with. No longer any issues with any of the quests in the game anymore, which is awesome. Tons and tons of co-op issues that people were having have been fixed. But let's actually talk about the stuff that's been improved in quality of life and stuff like that. So one thing that's not said here is now you can actually purchase materials. And this was really, really annoying because there are certain materials that are incredibly rare, but are needed for basic weapon upgrades. And as a result, most players were either forced to cheat in order to get the upgrades that they wanted, in order to get the materials that they wanted. Like, say, oxidizers. Oxidizers are a blue rarity, and you could not find these literally fucking anywhere. And you need them for a very basic, like, modification to your weapon. So most people were using fire because that uses alcohol and resin, and it's very easy to come by, and it's pretty good. They've now added the ability for every single merchant in the game. They now sell these, and they restock very quickly, and they sell the blue rarities. So that's a wonderful quality of life change. It's not actually stated here, but the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, thank God, because a lot of the stuff will use rare materials such as leather. And I could not find leather for my life. I would go to the places like Forsaken stores and stuff like that. There's supposed to be more difficult areas. You go at night and you're supposed to, get a bunch of shit from it. And I would never, ever find them. Now you can just buy them from merchants for quite cheap. So it's such a good change, such a good quality of life change. They've completely rehauled the combat. Like, the combat feels so much better in the game now. They improved the biter behavior during the day, so they latch onto you more frequently. This has already happened to me like 3 or 4 times in my few hours of playing in 1.2, and it didn't happen a single time to me in my whole 65-hour playthrough of the base game. So this is fantastic. Now the slow zombies are much more of a threat because they can hold you down. Everybody will beat the shit out of you. They completely rehauled the blunt weapons, and how people react depending on the weapon and the size, which is great. Previously, you would hit them with a two-handed weapon, and it would feel the exact same as hitting them with a one-handed weapon. I've played it now, and there's a big difference. Enemies, you definitely feel the power of a two-handed weapon now, which is fantastic. Human enemies will block attacks more frequently. They seem to also adapt faster. So if you're using the same moves, if you're just spamming your light attack, against humans, you're going to have a hard time. They're going to start adapting. They're going to start blocking and countering and stuff like that, which is making, fighting humans way more fun and interactive than it was previously, although I still thought it was really fun, but now they're actually more of a challenge. This is the big one. A lot of people had this gripe, and I also had this gripe too, because you play Dying Light 1 and, you kick a guy onto spikes and he's impaled, and he's stuck there. In this game, you kick a guy into spikes and he'll barely touch the spikes and then he'll just fall down dead. It was really weird. But they've completely changed that. So they made opponents enter ragdolling more often. They made it work more naturally. It depends. It behaves differently depending on the weapon that's being used. Appropriate forces are applied from falling from a height and when hitting different parts of the body, while maintaining the force given from the direction of the blow. So this just leads to a much more fluid combat. You can actually target limbs and stuff like that now in order to cut off certain limbs. It's really cool. Um, and now there's actually appropriate sound and effects and stuff like that when you hit people into things. You kick them into a box, and the boxes actually will like explode. Previously, it would happen, but there was like no sound a lot of the time. Now, sound properly plays, and most importantly, improved spike detection. Enemy is now always stamped on the spikes after a hit. Spike audio feedback is improved, and new effects were added, displayed on the body, on body's physical momentum, or based on the physical momentum. So depending on how hard they're hitting the spikes is actually like a different sound, which is really cool. On top of that, they changed the balancing to nighttime. It's kind of sad because you could just run around with a crossbow and a bow at night and just shoot howlers because there was a bajillion of them and get a bunch of trophies that way. But this right here, oh, this right here is the best. Survivor Sense now works correctly. It can be triggered without any cooldowns after getting hit or performing specific parkour actions. So I talked about this. I don't know if I talked about it in my review. I definitely think I talked about it in the glitches. And I talked about it a ton on stream. I was raging about it. Essentially, you would not be able to use your survivor sense, which is the thing that scans around you, after you did certain parkour actions or after you got hit sometimes. And this would persist for quite a while. This would persist sometimes up to like 30 to 45 seconds. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about the fact that you'll have a lot of quests where you have to follow footsteps and you can't see the footsteps normally, you have to use the survivor sense for the footsteps. So you'll use your survivor sense. It'll show you 5 footsteps. You walk to the end of those 5 footsteps. You need to scan again to show the next 5 footsteps, right? And you would have to wait 30 to 45 seconds to do that. This is, I fucking was spamming it the whole time I was playing, and it worked perfectly now, exactly how it should. You can do it as many times as you want. It's so much better. And then they also did, they did a lot of issues with the final boss, which I won't really talk about here for spoiler reasons. They also reworked a lot of the blood and the effects and stuff like that. It almost feels like you're playing like one of the Fallout games or Skyrim or something, and you got one of the blood effects mods. It almost feels like that now. So player hits with sharp weapons are now more precise and allow players to chop off body parts of opponents and cut them in half more easily, vertically and horizontally. Like I was saying, you can now specifically target body parts. I had a machete, and I didn't really want to kill this zombie. I just wanted to get it out of the way because it was annoying me. So I targeted the legs, chopped off the legs. Previously, it was pretty finicky whether you were going to chop off the legs or you were just going to hit them and they were going to recoil. Now it's a lot better. You can really just individually target the limbs that you want to hit. They reworked the audio, so it definitely sounds a lot better, sounds more impactful, which was one of my complaints in the review compared to Dying Light 1. Blood splats on the ground. This also applies on the wall. So if you like kick a dude into the wall, there was a huge explosion of blood all over the wall and stuff like that. If the player's close and the blood gets on the screen, it improves the effects. Dead bodies are now interactive and they react accurately to blows and injuries. This is kind of just like a little added thing because sometimes, you'd be having fun. You'd kick a body or something and it would not move. It would just be entirely silent and it's just like sitting there. Now it'll actually kick a dude in the head while he's dead. It'll just bonk. And it'll put blood stains on the body. They added a bunch of new blood effects. Tons of quality improvements. This doesn't honestly even touch the surface of how many stuff how much stuff there is and how much stuff I've already seen. As you can see here, they actually fixed the fucking achievements too. A lot of the achievements that were not applying previously are now correctly applying, which is fantastic. Overall, I just really wanted to say props to Dying Light 2. I know earlier, about a month ago when I made the video saying that it's a mess, don't buy it. I think it's now officially a good time to buy. I don't know if you could get it on sale right about now, but I do think it's worthy of your $60, especially in the state that it is now. Once again, can't comment on the status of the co-op, though. I have not played the co-op, but the game is in a fantastic state, at least on PC. Performance has improved incredibly. The combat is much better than it was. All around, really good game. Solid game. If anything, I may actually adjust my review from an 8 to a 9. Now, with all of these changes, I think it is really good. And the rate, I said it in the review that this game was going to be updated for years to come. The rate at which they're updating this game, like I said, I did not expect those ragdoll changes. There were a lot of people complaining about it and videos about it and comparisons to Dying Light 1 and stuff, but, at the end of the day, it kind of felt nitpicky. It's like, oh, well, the ragdolls aren't as ragdolly as the first game or whatever, and I did expect them to fix it, but I expected it to be 4 to 6 months down the line. The fact that we're not even 2 months after launch, we're 5 weeks after launch, and they're already changing little things like that, in my opinion, little things, says a ton about the future of this game. It's only going to get better. It's already only getting better, and I strongly recommend it to you guys. So, great job, Techland. Really, really happy to see developers actually making changes and making them quickly. This is not a Cyberpunk situation. May have looked like it at launch, but now we're good. We made it past it. It's much better. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.